All right, what's up, everybody? I am back for another adventure with GSP, and what I've got here today is the engine out of the shop car, as I've called it, Gator. So we're going to tear this thing down. We're going to do a competition engine teardown video, and I'm going to go through a couple of the things at least I look for, and we'll see how this goes. This engine should have a few issues that we think it's got. I'll go into a little more depth of what we've done to it and how much we've abused it, and all the things that we've done wrong throughout the 2.5 years that this thing has been together. And that'll be kind of fun to go through. And one other point I just wanted to make is my wife kind of looks at me funny sometimes because I'm all the time watching engine videos and car videos, and she's like, don't you know how to do all this stuff? And the answer is yeah. A lot of times I do know how to do it, but every now and then there'll be some trick or tip or, you know, something I hadn't thought of or whatever, and it's really good to watch that stuff. You might learn something. So I'm not saying I know how to do it the right way. I'm just saying I know how to do it a way, and hopefully I do something in this video that might help you out. So the way this kind of going to go is I'm going to time lapse some segments of me taking this thing apart, and as we discover awesomeness inside, I'll break out of the time lapse and we'll cut a video you know, in real time of what I find, and then we'll go back into the time lapse and get it all the way apart. The way I kind of do things, my bench is a bit of a mess right now because I've got one engine already apart and a lot of stuff on the bench moved because I want to build a wall around this whole segment in the shop. So all my stuff that should be over there is over here. But what I typically will do is I got a cart right here off camera, and that cart is going to be tied to the engine until it goes back together. And I'll actually end up getting 2 carts total because I'll have a dirty cart and a clean cart, and the dirty parts will come off the engine, go on this, and then as we're going back together or at once, if I decide to clean all at once, that stuff will come off of the dirty cart, get clean, and go onto the clean cart, and that'll get plastic wrapped and be ready to go back on the engine on assembly day. So you'll probably see me in a few different shirts throughout all of this process because it's going to be cut over quite a few different days. But anyway, that's enough talking. Let's get into it, and hopefully we can find something cool. First segment of this is this engine is as delivered to me. It still has the chain on it, still has the motor plate on it, fuel pump, a lot of this stuff that really I don't necessarily need, but I'm a little more familiar with this car, so I know how this stuff needs to come off and stay with it. And typically it's not stuff that I would have if I was doing an engine rebuild for somebody, or an engine build in general for somebody. The only thing that I have done off camera to this is I got it off the truck, obviously, and hung it on the stand, and while it was still in the air, I pulled the block plate off of it, and I pulled the rear cover off of it while it was still hanging, because it's kind of tricky to get wiggle out from behind the standoffs that are attached to the engine stand. So let's dive into this thing, and I'm going to time lapse getting kind of the outside stuff off of it, and then once we're at that point, I'll cut out and we'll talk about step number 1 of getting the engine apart. All right, guys, so I've got the motor plate off this thing. I've got it tilted right now because I'm trying to get every last drop of oil out of the pan, and it's still running because Here's your first little sneak peek into what we might find here later. We have 2050 in this thing to help some clearances. So one of the things that we fought the entire week was every time we would crank the boost up on this thing, it would come back and bathe itself in oil. And it was coming from somewhere in the front. We thought it was the scavenge line that might have been loose, return line might have been loose. It definitely was loose at least once. But we eventually, we tightened that up, we narrowed everything down, and we eventually came to the conclusion that it was the front seal. But right before this event, I'd had the balancer off and was checking everything over for that exact reason, because we had oiling issues. And I'm 99% certain I fixed the first oiling issue that we had. I think that the bolt itself was leaking, so it was actually leaking past the snout of the crankshaft, between the snout of the crank and the bolt. And so that, I'm 95% confident, is the reason that we were having issues. Right now, when I just pulled it apart, it was definitely sealed up. That wasn't a problem. So just continuing on a little bit here, I see something that's pretty interesting. Look right here on the front cover. This front cover is like machined, and it's making chips. And I know for a fact that this did not have a clearance issue statically. And so what that tells me is that the crankshaft is moving around enough, and the balancer is moving around enough, that that's probably why we have an oil leak, is because it's moving around enough to just flat out uncover a corner of the seal. So that's interesting. I have a solution for that, but I'm not gonna get into that just yet. We're gonna save that nugget for later. But all right, I'm gonna go ahead and tilt this thing back the right way, and probably knock the valve covers off, and go ahead and I'll see how far I can get into the heads tonight. But yeah, that's step one. I'd say that's where our seal issue is. Haven't done that before. That's kind of cool. Okay, I'm gonna keep ripping this thing apart. All right, guys, so I've got the Valvetrain off. If you've ever seen a stock LS Valvetrain, that's what we got here. It's nothing special. These are upgraded rockers, and we got 3/8 push rods in this thing from Tick. Nothing too exotic. Looked good coming off, best I could tell. Didn't see any issues with it. Valve springs look fine. Both sides are all good, but there is one thing I noticed when I took the valley cover off that I want to show you that is going to be probably fairly telling for what we're going to find in the bottom. So anyway, we will continue on some more and see what we find. Well, of course, the video time-lapse did not work of me taking the heads off, but real simple head removal. Take all the bolts out, take the heads off. The cool part is, if anybody has followed me in this car, you will know that we have blown head gaskets on this thing left and right. We haven't blown head gaskets. We've melted cylinder heads left and right. And I'm proud to announce that I think I finally, we have that licked, because Rob bought a set of injectors, which were the injectors that we needed for this event. And it is so much better now. It is way better. The cool part is, check this out. The head gaskets were fully sealed up on this sucker. I mean, they are awesome. Had to peel them away to get them off of this thing. She was perfect. So we ran, a lot of times we would run about 18-ish pounds of boost in this thing, and every now and then we'd crank it up to 22 maybe. And I think I had one pass that I was swinging for the moon, and I think we ran about 24, 25. Obviously that's really low boost for what we're doing, and we're really still just trying to get the thing ironed out. It's been a really long season of testing because both of us are really busy. And really, we've been testing, I feel like, for 2 years. And that's not a dig or anything. That's just, I feel like we're still, really learning this thing. It's not like we're looking for little increments anymore. We're looking for big chunks. So, super cool that we got head gaskets that are finally playing ball and cylinder heads that are finally playing ball. The plugs look great. I did look real quickly at the bottom of the heads, but I need to clean them up before I can really make too much of an assessment. But we also had zero indications on the road that we had any issues with them. So fingers crossed, everything like that is behind us. There's glitter everywhere. There's glitter down inside of the lifter trays. There's glitter everywhere. This is going to be fun here in a minute. All right. I guess there's nothing better to do than to roll it over, pop the pan off, and find where the glitter came from. Bad, y'all. This thing is a glitter factory. It's kind of awesome, actually. Let's see if I can get you flipped around here. Oh yeah, check that out. It's actually not as bad as I thought it might be, but we got something good. We got into the copper. All right. It's what I expected. Let's knock the pickup and the windage tray off this thing and see what we got. But anyway, let's move on to the bearings. As far as the bearings go, that's really what I typically would see from a crankshaft failure that is from bending, where the ends are fine, the center main is awful, and then 2 and 4 are pretty significantly hurt. The rod bearing failure up here, definitely see a little bit of edge loading. They definitely are angry. We ran this car another shoot, 85 or so miles from one track to the other after we knew we had an oil pressure problem, and we put heavier weight oil in it, hoping for the best. So the fact that the rod bearings do not look good at all doesn't really concern me too much whenever I know I've got main problems. And I have, you know, the picture of the front cover. I'll just grab it real quick. And so just to show you how much the crankshaft was whipping and moving, this is fresh. The balancer has wobbled enough that it has gotten into this timing cover and hurt this timing cover. I mean, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I'm amazed that those bearings look that good for that balancer to tip that much and like wobble and hit this cover. There's metal, there's shavings coming off this thing. Like, it is machined. Anyway, saw that coming. Am I a little disappointed that we didn't finish the last event without hurting it? Yeah, only because it was coming apart anyway. And I would have loved to have, you know, that crankshaft, there's really nothing wrong with it other than it's not made out of the right material or designed to do this. But it could be used no problem in a, you know, 300 or 400 horsepower build. But now it's probably not worth saving, honestly. It's got copper all over it. We can go down and take a look at it as well. So, you know, we got copper on the mains. And all of that, for what it's worth, all of that will polish out. It's smooth. It's really not tore up too bad. It's just, yeah, it just is what it is. So that's some of that, and we'll bounce out and go take a look at some of the normal things that we have in this engine than what I do in a typical inspection of a torn down engine. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the other things to look for. I'll go through all of the lifter wheels, roll them, make sure that they are rolling smooth and that the wheel themselves are smooth. I've done that to these already and they all seem fine. I'll go through the timing chain and make sure I don't see anything obvious. Same thing with the gear, make sure that the teeth on the gear all look good. In this case, I could take the wheel pump apart and inspect it. I'm not even going to waste my time with that. We're going to just get an oil pump for it because this thing has already eaten a bunch of metal and they are not that expensive. Not that even cost, honestly, was a factor at this point, given the situation that has gone through. But the biggest thing I like to do is, if I am going to reuse pistons and rods, I'm going to be honest with you, like these pistons, they look great, minus some trash that's gotten into the skirts. I got to really come up with something. I'm thinking about sending them out, having them coated. We'll see. I haven't quite decided on that just yet. But anyway, the other thing I like to do is I'll roll around and look at that top land. See if I can try to get that in focus. Make sure that the top land is not eroded in any way. It'll be pretty obvious if you have a valve tag, a piston or anything, but that's always something, you know, you can look for. Other things I look for, I'll go through and look at the big end of the rod and see if the imprint of the bearing is uneven in any way. Like if I had something going on in the big end of the rod. I'll do that for all of these pistons. I haven't done that yet. One last thing I like to do is I'll pull the rings and look at the rings, make sure that the barrel faces all look good on the rings. If you're gonna replace that stuff, it's still a good thing to do. Mainly just so you can get a read on your engine if something's not square, or if you have a problem with a bore, and you know, it'll point to potential problems. But unfortunately, it's pretty obvious on this guy that crank was not happy. And like I said, I was expecting that. No big deal. We got a forged crank to go back in this and should be better off. All right, everybody, that's going to be the end of this video. Really appreciate you sticking around this far to see the full teardown of this engine. I do want to say, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from GSP. We're gonna be really hitting the YouTube stuff kind of hard coming in 2025. I'm really trying to step the game up. We're gonna make that one of our focuses, to try to remember to film everything that we're doing. That's something I've not always been good at, because I get kind of caught up in the moment and get thrashing on something and don't put the camera up. But I'm gonna really try to make an effort to bring more of the content that we're creating, just not recording. We're gonna try to bring it to you. And so, if that said, if you have any topics that you'd like for me to hit in a future video, either tuning wise or car building wise, or shoot, something I don't know anything about, so I have a reason to go learn it, well, let me know in the comments. And please do the old like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And Merry Christmas and a happy 2025 to everybody. And we're gonna hit it hard and heavy and see if we can make some magic happen in 2025. Thanks a bunch, and I'll catch you on the next one.